Commander Sarah Chen pressed herself against the crumbling wall, her tactical suit's cooling system struggling against Singapore's merciless heat. Through the gaps in the ruins, she watched the Wraith Patrol's crystalline armor catch the setting sun's rays, turning them into walking prisms of death. Their leader, Supreme Commander Nexus, stood a head taller than his soldiers, his armor adorned with pulsing lines of blue energy, a mark of his elite status. "I can smell your fear, human," Nexus's voice carried across the rubble-strewn street, its artificial translation making it sound like breaking glass. "Your kind always reeks of it in your final moments." Sarah checked her pulse rifle's charge, 15% power remaining, barely enough for 2 good shots. Her side burned where Wraith energy blade had caught her earlier, the wound sealed but still angry. The nanomids in her system were working overtime, but they couldn't keep up with the damage forever. The ruins of New Singapore stretched out behind her, once Earth's proudest achievement, a gleaming vertical city that housed millions. Now it was a graveyard of twisted metal and broken dreams. The Wraith had taken special pleasure in destroying it, seeing it as a symbol of humanity's ambition. "You've led us on quite a chase, Commander Chen." Nexus continued, his soldiers spreading out in a practiced formation. "I'll grant you that much. You've shown more resilience than most of your kind." Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. They still didn't know about the quantum beacon hidden beneath her armor, its experimental circuits warming against her skin. The device was untested, dangerous, but it was also humanity's best hope. All she needed was time. "Tell me, Nexus," she called out, her voice steady despite the pain. "Does it bother you that it took 20 of your best to corner one human?" She heard the angry chittering of his soldiers. Good. Let them get angry. Angry enemies made mistakes. "Amusing," Nexus replied, but there was an edge to his voice now. "Your species always resorts to primitive taunts when faced with superior beings. Look around you, human. Your mighty city lies in ruins. Your orbital defenses are shattered. Your fleets burn in space. Yet you still resist the inevitable." Sarah's fingers brushed against the beacon's activation switch. The device needed 3 more minutes to achieve quantum synchronization. 3 minutes she'd have to somehow survive. "We resist because that's what we do," she said, shifting slightly to keep multiple escape routes in view. Humanity didn't crawl out of the caves, survive ice ages, cross oceans, and reach the stars by giving up when things got difficult. A Wraith soldier moved too close to our position. Sarah's rifle snapped up and fired in one fluid motion. The energy bolt caught him in the joint between armor plates, one of the few vulnerabilities they'd discovered. He went down with a shriek that made her teeth ache. "Impressive," Nexus admitted, "but futile. Your martial skills, while admirable for a lesser species, cannot change the outcome. The Wraith Dominion has conquered 1,000 worlds. Races far more advanced than humanity have fought them before us. Your resistance only prolongs your suffering." 2 minutes now. The beacon was growing warmer. Sarah could feel sweat trickling down her back, but she couldn't tell if it was from the heat or anticipation. "That's your problem, Nexus. You think technology equals destiny. You believe because you have better ships, better weapons, better armor, that victory is guaranteed." She shifted again, keeping the conversation going. "But humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our stubborn refusal to accept defeat." More Wraith soldiers were moving into position. Sarah counted 12 visible ones, which meant at least 8 more were trying to flank her. Their confidence was their weakness. They wanted to take her alive, to make an example of the human commander who had caused them so much trouble 1 minute. The beacon was hot enough now. that it was almost uncomfortable against her skin. Stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Nexus laughed, the sound like shattering crystals. You mistake suicide for bravery. Your entire species suffers from this delusion. It's why we had to come here, you know. Your kind would have spread through the galaxy like a virus, contaminating other races with your chaos, your unpredictability, your dangerous ideas about individual freedom. 30 seconds. Sarah's hand tightened on her rifle. You're right about one thing, Nexus, she said, a genuine smile crossing her face now. We are unpredictable. The beacon activated with a high-pitched whine that made the Wraith soldiers step back in confusion. Quantum energy cascaded through the device, reaching across space and time to the only hope humanity had left. What is this? Nexus demanded, his composure cracking for the first time. What have you done? I just proved your whole species wrong, Sarah replied, standing straighter despite her wounds. You think humans are predictable, that we're inferior because we're younger, less advanced. Then let me teach you something about humanity, Nexus. We don't fight alone. The beacon's signal pulsed outward, carrying with it humanity's greatest trait, hope in the face of impossible odds. Sarah knew she might not survive to see help arrive, but that didn't matter. What mattered was that she had changed the game. The Wraith were about to learn that cornering a human was never as simple as it seemed. Kill her. Nexus roared, his legendary control finally shattering. Kill her now. But Sarah Chen stood her ground, weapon raised, defiant to the end. The Wraith might have their superior technology, their ancient empire, their unshakable belief in their own supremacy. But they were about to learn what happened when humanity's back was against the wall. The quantum beacon pulsed one final time, and Sarah smiled. The real battle was about to begin. Light years away, aboard the hidden resistance vessel Normandy, Captain Marcus Rivera jolted awake as the quantum receiver screamed to life. The signal was weak, distorted by distance and interference, but its message was clear. Commander Chen was alive, and she had found a way to reach them. Track that signal. He barked, rushing to the bridge while pulling on his combat gear. His crew, a handful of humanity's finest survivors, were already moving with practiced efficiency. How many Wraith signatures around the source? Lieutenant Emma Patel's fingers flew across the holographic interface. Multiple contacts, sir. At least 20 elite-class energy signatures. They've got her cornered in what's left of New Singapore. Marcus's jaw tightened. Sarah Chen wasn't just another soldier. She was the architect of humanity's most successful guerrilla campaigns against the Wraith. Losing her wasn't an option. Sir. Emma's voice carried an edge of concern. The quantum signal. It's using the prototype beacon. The one that was still in testing when we evacuated Earth. Marcus understood her worry. The beacon was dangerous, unstable. Its power could tear a hole in reality if it wasn't properly controlled. But Sarah must have known that. She wouldn't have activated it unless the situation was desperate. Show me tactical, he ordered, studying the three-dimensional map that sprang to life. The Wraith forces were arranged in a classic containment pattern around Sarah's position. They were being led by someone who knew what they were doing. Supreme Commander Nexus, Emma confirmed, reading his thoughts. His personal signature is unmistakable. He must really want her dead. Marcus allowed himself a grim smile. No, he wants her alive. The Wraith don't waste elite forces on simple executions. They want to make an example of her. The bridge crew worked in focused silence, calculating jump coordinates and weapon solutions. They all knew what was at stake. Sarah Chen wasn't just a commander, she was a symbol. Her resistance campaigns had given humanity hope when all seemed lost. "Jump calculations complete," announced Navigator James Chen, no relation to Sarah, but just as determined to save her. "But sir, even with the quantum drive, we're looking at a 10-minute transit. A lot can happen in 10 minutes. Marcus nodded, already formulating a plan. Sarah knows that. She'll find a way to survive. She always does. He turned to his weapons officer. "Load the new stealth pods. All of them." The officer's eyes widened. "Sir, those are still experimental. We've only tested them twice, and the second test nearly got us killed, yes." Marcus cut him off. "But they worked, and right now, they're the only advantage the Wraith won't be expecting." The stealth pods were another of humanity's desperate innovations, weapons that could slip through Wraith energy shields by existing partially out of phase with normal space. They were dangerous, unreliable, and exactly the kind of insane technology that had kept humanity in the fight. "All hands. Battle stations," Marcus commanded, his voice carrying through the ship. "This isn't a rescue mission. It's a message. The Wraith think they've cornered one of our best. Let's show them what happens when humanity fights back." As the crew prepared for combat, Marcus's thoughts drifted to his last conversation with Sarah, just before she'd volunteered for the solo mission to Earth. She'd been convinced that the Wraith's greatest weakness was their pride, their absolute certainty in their own superiority. "They've forgotten what it's like to be afraid," she'd told him. "We need to remind them." The quantum drive hummed to life, its energy building to impossible levels. Reality itself seemed to bend around the ship as they prepared to jump. Marcus checked his tactical display one last time. The Wraith formation was perfect, disciplined, and completely unprepared for what was coming. "Sir," Emma called out, her voice tense. "The beacon's signal is fluctuating. Commander Chen's life signs are erratic." Marcus gripped his command chair. "Hold on, Sarah," he muttered. "Just hold on." The ship shuddered as the quantum drive reached full power. In moments, they would tear through space itself to reach Earth. The Wraith thought they had won, thought they had finally cornered the legendary Sarah Chen. They were about to learn why humanity had survived every catastrophe, every invasion, every apocalypse that had ever threatened their existence. Jump in 3, 2, 1. The Normandy vanished in a flash of quantum fire, racing across the stars to prove that no human ever fought alone. The Wraith's arrogance had led them to this moment, and they were about to learn why underestimating humanity was the last mistake any species ever made. The rescue mission had begun, and with it, perhaps humanity's best chance to turn the tide of the war. In the darkness of space, hope still burned, and it burned with the fury of 1,000 suns. The Normandy tore through quantum space, reality bending around its hull as Captain Rivera prepared his crew for what would be either humanity's most daring rescue mission or their last stand. In the weapons bay, elite strike teams checked their phase shifter armor, technology reverse-engineered from captured Wraith tech that allowed them to briefly exist out of sync with normal space. Remember, Marcus addressed his strike team leaders through the ship's comm. "We hit them from multiple vectors. The Wraith expect a frontal assault. It's all they've ever known. Their arrogance blinds them to anything else." Lieutenant Emma Patel's voice cut through the preparations. "Captain, quantum transit complete in 30 seconds. Sarah's beacon is still active, but her life signs are weakening." Marcus nodded grimly. "Launch stealth drones the moment we emerge. I want eyes on that battlefield before the Wraith even know we're here." The ship shuddered as it prepared to re-enter normal space. Every crew member knew their role, knew what was at stake. This wasn't just about saving Sarah Chen. It was about showing the Wraith that humanity's greatest strength was its unpredictability. Transit complete. Emma announced as reality snapped back into focus around them. The ruins of New Singapore sprawled below, once mighty towers now broken teeth against the evening sky. The stealth drones launched silently, their quantum-shifted forms invisible to Wraith sensors. The tactical display came alive with data. Supreme Commander Nexus had arranged his forces in a perfect containment pattern around Sarah's position. Perfect by Wraith standards, that is, which meant it was exactly what Marcus had expected. "Strike teams, prepare for quantum insertion," Marcus ordered. "Remember your training. The Wraith think they're invincible in their crystal armor. Let's show them how wrong they are." The drone's feeds showed Sarah, still standing despite her wounds, keeping the Wraith at bay through sheer force of will. Nexus was growing frustrated. Marcus could see it in the way the alien commander's energy signature fluctuated. "Sir," Emma called out, "I'm detecting power buildups in the Wraith weapons." They'd done playing with her. Marcus smiled coldly. "Perfect timing. All teams, execute Operation Ghostfall. Now." The Normandy's hull split open like a blooming flower, releasing dozens of quantum-shifted pods. Each contained a 3-person strike team, their phase shifter armor, allowing them to pass through solid matter for brief periods. It was dangerous technology. Some said it could tear apart the user's molecular structure if used too long, but it was exactly the kind of desperate innovation that had kept humanity fighting. The pods fell silently through the evening air, completely invisible to Wraith sensors. The alien forces, so focused on Sarah, never saw death approaching from above. The first sign that something was wrong came when one of Nexus's elite guards simply disappeared, their crystalline armor shattering as a phase-shifted blade passed through their supposedly impenetrable shields. What treachery is this? Nexus roared, his perfect formation dissolving into chaos as more of his soldiers fell to invisible attackers. Sarah's laugh carried across the battlefield. "I told you, Nexus. Humans don't fight alone." The strike teams materialized and dematerialized at will, their phase shifter armor letting them appear inside the Wraith's defensive formations, strike with devastating precision, and vanish before the aliens could respond. It was beautiful chaos, the kind of warfare that the rigidly tactical Wraith had never encountered. Impossible. Nexus bellowed as another of his elite guards fell. "Your species doesn't have this technology. You're primitives." "That's your problem." Sarah's voice was stronger now, bolstered by the arrival of reinforcements. "You think because you're older, more advanced, that you know everything. But humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to adapt, to take your weapons and turn them against you." Marcus watched from the Normandy as his strike teams systematically dismantled the Wraith force. The aliens' perfect formation, their superior technology, their unshakable confidence, none of it mattered against an enemy they couldn't predict or counter. "Multiple Wraith ships detected," Emma warned. "They're responding to Nexus's distress call." Marcus nodded calmly. "Right on schedule. Launch the quantum mines." The Normandy released its second surprise, microscopic quantum devices that attached themselves to the approaching Wraith vessels. The aliens' shields, designed to stop physical attacks, were useless against weapons that technically didn't exist in normal space. One by one, the Wraith ships began to fall, their crystal hulls shattering as the quantum mines phased into existence inside their engine cores. The aliens had never considered that their greatest defense, their advanced shield technology, could become their greatest weakness when faced with an enemy desperate enough to break the laws of physics itself. On the ground, Nexus watched his perfect plan crumble around him. His elite force, the pride of the Wraith Dominion, was being systematically destroyed by humans using technology that shouldn't have been possible. "Do you understand now?" Sarah called out to him, her voice carrying the weight of humanity's determination. "This is why we'll win. Not because we're stronger or more advanced, but because we never, ever stop finding new ways to fight." The battle for New Singapore was becoming a rout. The Wraith forces, their formations shattered and their confidence broken, began to fall back in disarray. Nexus stood alone, his pristine armor now scarred and cracked, facing the reality that everything he believed about human inferiority had been wrong. Operation Ghostfall was more than a rescue mission. It was a message to the entire Wraith Dominion. Humanity wasn't just surviving, they were learning, adapting, and turning the aliens' own arrogance against them. The war was far from over, but something fundamental had changed in those few minutes above the ruins of New Singapore. The Wraith had finally learned what it meant to fear, and humanity had shown that even in their darkest hour, they were far from defeated. Supreme Commander Nexus stood amid the ruins of his shattered forces, his crystalline armor cracked and dulled, no longer catching the light like living crystal. Around him, the evidence of his failure lay scattered. Elite Wraith warriors fallen to human ingenuity, their perfect formations broken by an enemy they had fatally underestimated. "Surrender, Nexus," Sarah Chen called out, now standing tall despite her wounds. Captain Rivera and a squad of phase-shifted troops materialized beside her, their experimental armor humming with unstable quantum energy. "Your ships are destroyed. Your soldiers are defeated. It's over." But the Wraith commander's pride ran deep. "You think this changes anything?" He snarled, his translator making the words sound like breaking glass. "The Dominion will send more ships, more soldiers. We will burn your worlds to ash." Marcus stepped forward, his phase shifter armor casting strange shadows in the evening light. "Look around you, Commander. Really look. Your perfect strategy, your superior technology, your unshakable belief in your own supremacy, where has it gotten you?" The human strike teams had positioned themselves strategically, their quantum-shifted forms flickering in and out of normal space. They were living proof of humanity's adaptability, using the Wraith's own technological principles against them in ways the aliens had never imagined possible. "Your species," Nexus began, but for the first time there was uncertainty in his voice. "You were supposed to be primitive, predictable. How did you develop this technology?" Sarah smiled grimly. "We didn't develop it. We stole it, reversed engineered it, improved it. That's what humans do. We take what works and make it better. We learn from our enemies, adapt their strengths, and turn them into our own." The quantum beacon at Sarah's side pulsed one final time before going dark, its experimental circuits finally burning out. But it had served its purpose. The signal had reached the Normandy, and now the Wraith were learning a harsh lesson about underestimating humanity's resourcefulness. "The Dominion has ruled the stars for 10,000 years, Nexus declared, but his words lacked their former conviction. "We have conquered species far more advanced than yours." "Maybe that's your problem," Marcus replied. "You've been dominant for so long that you've forgotten what it's like to fight for survival. Humanity hasn't. Every step of our evolution, every advancement we've made, came from refusing to accept defeat." Around them, the ruins of New Singapore stood as a testament to both Wraith destructive power and human resilience. The city might have fallen, but its people had survived, scattered across the stars, adapting and preparing for moments exactly like this. Your defeat here will change nothing, Nexus insisted, but his posture had changed, become defensive. The Dominion will not stop until humanity is extinct. Sarah's laugh was cold. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't just a defeat, it's a message. Every human colony, every resistance cell, every survivor of your invasion will hear about this day. They'll learn that the mighty Wraith can be beaten, that your technology isn't invincible. And they'll learn something else, Marcus added, his voice carrying across the battlefield. They'll learn that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology or our tactics. It's our spirit. Our absolute refusal to submit, no matter the odds. The sun was setting over the ruins of New Singapore, casting long shadows across the battlefield where Wraith pride had finally been broken. This wasn't just a military victory. It was a psychological one, a crack in the foundation of Wraith supremacy that would never truly heal. The aftermath of the battle brought a strange silence to the ruins of New Singapore. The quantum mines had done their work, leaving the Wraith fleet in ruins. Nexus, the once proud Supreme Commander, stood as a prisoner, his crystalline armor dulled and cracked. A perfect metaphor for the Wraith Dominion's shattered confidence. Signal from the Normandy, Lieutenant Emma Patel reported through the comm. Multiple human resistance ships are emerging from quantum space. They received our transmission. They're coming to help secure the area. Sarah Chen nodded, finally allowing herself to lean slightly on Marcus for support. The nanomids in her system were working overtime, but the day's battles had taken their toll. Still, there was steel in her voice when she spoke. You know what this means, Nexus. While you were hunting me, thinking you had cornered one human commander, we were actually laying a trap. Every resistance cell within range is converging here. New Singapore isn't your victory anymore. It's becoming our staging ground. The Wraith commander's eyes flickered with something new, something no human had ever seen in a Wraith before: fear. You planned this, he said slowly, realization dawning. The beacon, the phase shifters, all of it. You wanted us to corner you here. Marcus smiled grimly. Now he gets it. Commander Chen's mission wasn't just about surviving. It was about proving you could be beaten. About showing every human resistance fighter that the mighty Wraith aren't invincible after all. The sky above New Singapore was filling with ships now. Human vessels emerging from quantum space, their designs a mixture of salvaged Wraith technology and human innovation. Each one represented a different resistance cell, a different group of survivors who had refused to submit to Wraith Dominion. Your arrival here will be reported to the Dominion, Nexus warned, but his threats sounded hollow now. They will send a fleet to reclaim this world. Let them come, Sarah replied calmly. Every ship they send here is one less ship attacking our other colonies. And when they arrive, they'll find something they've never faced before, humans who no longer fear them. The strike teams were already securing the area, their phase shifter armor allowing them to sweep the ruins for any remaining Wraith forces. But there was something different about their movements now, a confidence that came from knowing they had beaten the unbeatable. You know what your greatest mistake was? Marcus asked Nexus as human medical teams approached to tend to Sarah's wounds. You thought technology and age made you superior, but humanity's strength isn't in our weapons or our tactics. It's in our spirit, our ability to face impossible odds and find a way to win. Sarah straightened, despite her injuries, her voice carrying to all the human forces around them. This victory isn't just about New Singapore. It's about showing every human out there that we can fight back, that we can take the Wraith's own weapons and turn them against them, that we can win. The rising sun began to paint the sky in shades of gold and pink, its light catching on the quantum-scarred ruins of New Singapore. But where the Wraith had meant this destruction to break human spirit, it had instead become the backdrop for their greatest defeat. "Take him to the Normandy," Marcus ordered, and the strike teams moved to secure Nexus. "The intelligence we'll gather from him will help resistance cells across the galaxy. This is just the beginning." As the human ships secured their position and medical teams tended to the wounded, Sarah looked out over the battlefield where Wraith Arrogance had finally met its match. This wasn't the end of the war. The Dominion would fight back harder than ever now. But something fundamental had changed. "You know what happens next?" she asked Marcus as they watched Nexus being led away. "Every human colony, every resistance fighter, every survivor will hear about this battle. They'll learn that the Wraith can be beaten, that their technology can be turned against them, that humanity isn't just surviving, we're fighting back." Marcus nodded, his expression determined. "And the Wraith will learn something too. They'll learn that hunting humans is like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. We're unpredictable, adaptable, and absolutely relentless." The dawn of a new day was breaking over New Singapore, but it was more than just another sunrise. It was the dawn of a new phase in the war, one where humanity no longer fought from the shadows, but stood tall and proud, ready to face whatever the Wraith Dominion could throw at them. Because on this day, in the ruins of a fallen city, humanity had proven what Sarah Chen had known all along, that no amount of advanced technology or ancient power could overcome the human spirit. The Wraith had finally learned what it meant to fear, and humanity had shown that even in their darkest hour, hope could become their greatest weapon. The war would continue, but everything had changed. The myth of Wraith invincibility had been shattered, and in its place, a new legend was born. The legend of how humanity's desperate call for help had become the catalyst for their greatest victory.